Hello everyone, I'm Lucy Fanger, CEO of On Technology Partners, and I'm proud to be sponsoring our new program, Women STaRs. In each episode, we will spotlight an amazing woman and the struggles and triumphs that she has faced. Then we will reflect and share her insights. Our goal is to engage, entertain, and explore the women stars in our world today. I hope you enjoy.
I want to thank you all for listening today. My name is Shanti Harkness, and I'm the Media Manager for On Technology Partners, a woman-owned company addressing cybersecurity and risk. Today, we'll be speaking with Maria Sullivan. Maria is the founder of International Business Connect, a firm that coaches international IT companies, trade associations, and government agencies on how to succeed and win new business in the global markets. She works diligently with clients in creating a go-to market strategy, which identifies the best entryways into their new global market and then helps them build a presentation that sells. In addition, she provides sales training to government agencies, associations, and their member companies on how to win new business. Maria is currently working with the Channel Company in a role of business and international business development. She has held executive positions with Gartner and United Business Media and has also led sales in the private technology sector. She holds an associate's in accounting, a bachelor degree in political science from Tufts University, and a master's degree in international law and diplomacy from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. Maria, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, Shanti. This is so nice. And I really want to thank On Technology Partners, especially Lucy and Ken. This is just a real honor for me. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you're with us. So before we begin, why don't you tell us something that others may not know about you or something exciting about yourself?
Ooh, okay. Well, there's several things, I guess. I mean, I would have to say I used to pilot single-engine aircraft.
Oh.
So that's something people don't know about me. Little Cessnas, 150s, 152s. When I lived down in Washington, D.C., I used to fly out of just a little small airfield, Culpeper, Virginia. It was a lot of fun. It was really exciting. It's nothing I'm keeping up now. I think that's why a lot of people don't know about it. But to me, it was very exciting and something people don't know about me.
That is exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Our first pilot. So Maria, we know that, triumphs don't come without their struggles. So talk to us a little bit about what some of your biggest struggles have been. And this can be professionally or personally. And how were you able to get through those struggles? And what kind of an impact did they have on your life and or career?
Oh, that's a great, gosh, I would have to say my biggest struggle. Well, there's two actually. So if it's okay, I'll mention both of them.
Sure.
The first was going to college and working full time. My parents were immigrants from Italy. When they came to this country, my brothers and sisters, from a family of 6, my brothers and sisters were all born in Italy. I was the youngest. And, I wanted to go to college and I wanted to make them, proud. So it was just a real struggle because they didn't have the money to send me to college. They did save up for 1 year. So I devised a plan on what I was going to do with that 1 year of college funding. So, I started my plan early. I graduated high school in 3 years. I said, okay, I can get through this. I just thought college would take me longer to do. So I was on a race. So did my high school in 3 years, and I decided with the money I was going to go to accounting school and work as an accounting assistant at one of the major colleges. So because at the time they would pay for some of your college courses. So that's what I did to just make working my hardest to make this plan come true. But it was very difficult because with everything I do, I try to do it to the best of my ability. I guess you could say I'm competitive. So I was working full time, trying to please my bosses and do really well at the same time going to school and trying to get A's. So that was really, really difficult. What got me through it was definitely watching my parents. Like I said, they immigrated to America from Italy, and they didn't speak a word of English. They had 6 children. I mean, to think of that now, wow. I mean, I have 3 children to support them and, give them things in life. That's how I got through it, was watching them and saying, okay, if they're working this hard, then I can work this hard. I can do what they did. At the time, I didn't realize actually the extent of how much they did, but that's how I got through it. The second thing is a little bit more personal. When I was pregnant with my first daughter, I was told that she had cystic fibrosis. So, and her lifespan at the time was 13 years. So it was, I think the unknown was what was so scary to me. And it became a struggle for me because at the time I was working full time. So I had to make decisions. Again, I like to give 100% effort and in my job and mostly everything I do, right? So I had to decide and to tell Gartner at the time that I can't be a full-time employee anymore. I'm going to be a contractor, at which time I started my own company. So that's where it's got me. It's got me here. Both of those things, my parents teaching me to just be a hard worker, and which was what got me here today. How I don't know if I answered all of your questions, but how I got through it. How I got through it was a lot of prayer, really believing in God, and just, knowing that God was with me and that I could get through that with his strength. And also the support system from my friends. And result, I would have to say, is how it affected me is that it made me strong.
Wonderful. Yeah, I absolutely agree that, the struggles that we go through really do make us stronger. I have a wonderful analogy that was shared with me about Olympic hurdlers and how when they're training, they use the hurdles to make themselves stronger and faster. So every time they jump a hurdle, they get faster instead of having that hurdle slow them down, which I thought was absolutely fascinating to use that for life. So instead of being knocked down by these hurdles that are in your path, you jump over them and get faster and stronger, which I think is absolutely wonderful because, that's life. We can either let these struggles define us and tear us down, or we can use them to become stronger and more resilient. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Did you have any other tips or tricks that you use to get through those challenging times?
Goodness. So I tell you, it's a series of ups and downs and trying to stay focused, right? So, my tips, I guess, would have to be just, believe in yourself, stay focused, because there are going to be things that are going to be pulling at you to pull you off course, right? And, just do it. Just do it. If you set out a goal, just do it. You have to have the courage. You have to persevere through it. It's funny. I was just reading something about Thomas Edison about, someone had asked him, is it true that you failed 2,000 times in your first 2,000 attempts before you invented the light bulb? To which he replied, I didn't fail. I learned 2,000 ways not to make the light bulb, which I thought was really funny, right? And true to life. Mm-hmm. Every one of those tests taught him something, right? So I've always remembered that everyone that I've ever looked up to has failed more than they have succeeded because they tried when others wouldn't. So I guess I would have to say, if you don't try, you'll never succeed. So, it's great to celebrate your successes, but, and you work hard and you deserve it, right? But don't forget that it's just as important to take notice of your failures and to pick them apart and say, hey, what could I have done differently and better? Giving yourself some constructive criticism, looking at a situation that maybe didn't turn out the way you wanted it to turn out and saying, where did things fall apart? Taking that time to reflect. Some examples would be, hey, did I talk too much and not let the client speak? Is that why the deal fell apart? Did I take the vegan person out for a steak dinner? Is that why it fell apart? So, that's what I would have to say. You need to just think back, reflect, and take chances. So yeah, I hope I'm not speaking too much, but I always think that when things get tough, just look upon your good examples too. I always look at my mom and dad, how they immigrated here, not being able to speak English.
Great words of advice. Thank you. So let's take a moment and focus on your biggest triumph. Can you share what happened and what made it such a great triumph for you?
Wow. So, I would have to say that, again, it's my college example, graduating from college. So my sister and I, well, she had me beat by about 6 months. She was the first person in my whole generation to graduate from college first, right? My parents came from Italy, where they lived in the mountains and they were farmers, right? So, just being one of those first from my generation to graduate from college and getting into college with a family that really didn't have a lot of money was my biggest triumph. So, from there, from college, I would have to say I have my sister beat because I was the first person to graduate from a graduate school before anyone else. That definitely was my biggest triumph. So what had happened, again, I think I spoke about this in the previous question, was I made a plan for myself on how am I going to do this? This is what I want. How am I going to do it? Okay, I'm going to work full time. I'm going to prove myself. At the time it was Tufts, at the time it was Boston University. And then I transferred over to Tufts and working at Tufts bursar's office. And, my boss used to come to me and say, wow, you're doing such a great job. But I knew in my mind I had something coming for her. I would thank her, and then I would say, oh, by the way, I would like to take my lunch if it's okay with you, rather than from 12 to 1. Do you mind if I'm interested in taking a class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but the class is from 10:30 to 11:30. Would that be okay with you? And also on Tuesday and Thursday, I'd like to take my lunch from 1:30 to 3. I know that's a little bit longer, but I can, make that time up. And because I had proven myself first, which again was part of my plan, right? She said, sure, no problem. So from there, I was able to maintain a full-time course workload while working full-time. And, to make it easier on myself, I had worked, gone to school, part-time in the spring, part-time in the fall, and then they had the 2 summer sessions. So that's how I did it. And to me, it was my biggest triumph because it worked. I did it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it takes me back because I went through a similar struggle working. I wasn't able to work full time, but I was working part time while also commuting to college, half hour, 45 minutes each way, and just definitely reminds me of the daily struggle to make sure that everything worked and everything went according to schedule, because if something changed at the last minute, it just messed everything up because everything was so tightly scheduled, and just worked so hard to make sure that, I did the absolute best that I could. I think my final semester was 18 credits, an internship, and working part-time.
Wow. So exactly.
Yes. And I worked my butt off to make sure that I got straight A's, because it was always drilled into me, from my family, that failure's not an option, and second best isn't an option either. You need to be the best.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because it seemed like you were sharing this triumph with your parents. They knew you could do better. They wanted you to do your best. So when you triumphed, they did as well. And I feel that way about my parents too. This triumph wasn't just for me and my own personal goal. It's that they came to America for the American dream, for a better life for their children. I did this for future generations, just made that triumph so much bigger.
It does. So Maria, as women, we struggle we juggle a multitude of different things. There's career and family, household responsibilities, sometimes illnesses and caregiving. How do you maintain a work-life balance, and how do you find the support that you need to address those things?
Right. So this is tough because I've worked from home for a number of years and I've gotten better at juggling. For me, it was easy to go in the office because once work was over, you could put the laptop down, leave, go home, and now you have your family life, your quality family time, right? The dichotomy of the family is something that is evolving, and it's not something that is unique to just women right now, right? Because everyone's working from home.
Mm-hmm.
But it's finding that balance on when, I feel like since the computer is always on, you're working all the time. And I was telling my bosses this years ago, just because I'm working from home doesn't mean it's, you're not getting any less out of me. You're getting so much more out of me because I can't shut it off. But at the same time, as you're saying, you have to juggle, your family, right? So what I do and what works really great for me is I put everything in my calendar. I put my work meetings in my calendar. I put my doctor's appointments in my calendars for my children, when their soccer games are. All family things go in one calendar. I also have a family meeting every morning where I tell my children when I will not be available. Please don't go through the door and ask me questions when I'm on a call. So they know not to do that, right? But at the same time, they also tell me when I'm needed, right? So that I can schedule my work around those times. So that's how I've been able to juggle really children and work. But I do want to say that it's important for us all to carve out time for ourselves, right? So something that's really worked for me is I like to exercise. I would say, okay, I'm going to have this exercise routine. I'm going to do it for 1 hour every day. Yeah, that didn't work, right? So start small. I was like, I can't do an hour, right? So start small on, if it's time for yourself. So I started saying to myself, I think about 2 years ago, saying, okay, I'm going to work out 10 minutes every day, do sit-ups, push-ups, and maybe like just a small bench, 10 minutes, right? What that does is if you're having a little good workout for 10 minutes and you have the time, it's going to make you keep going, right? So that's how you can carve out the time for ourselves. Because I know as moms, right? I know for myself, I put myself at the bottom of the list. My time is, I give the time to my children and work before I give the time to myself. So, if you can just carve out 10 minutes just for yourself and do it every day, it is going to work into something a little bit longer. And if it doesn't, then that's great. Then you got the 10 minutes in. So definitely writing things down works for me. I love lists.
Amen. Me too.
Yes. And I love, I have to say, I love crossing things off the list.
Yes.
I like to tangibly see what I'm doing, right? So I'll make my list. I'll cross things off the list, and I feel really good about crossing them off.
Absolutely. I even go so far as there's always a ton of things on my list. But if I find that I've done something that isn't on my list, I will write it on my list just so I can cross it off.
My gosh. So my niece told me that we were discussing lists, right? So I think, we're talking more about how to be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has made me successful, is making those lists. But I was having this conversation with my niece and she's like, Auntie, what about when you do something that wasn't on the list and you put it on the list and you cross it off?
Yes. It makes you feel so good because you still accomplished something. So it helps to give you that momentum to keep going rather than feeling so defeated because you didn't do all of the things that were on your list.
Right. So when I can put the kids' things in my calendar, my work meetings in the calendar, and I've done them all, it's a great way to juggle, everything and be successful at it.
That's excellent. I definitely like the idea of putting everything into one calendar, like you said.
Right.
I had started doing that this year as well, putting everything in the same calendar, and it's so much easier and so much clearer. And then you're not missing things or double booking things because you don't think you have something, scheduled Friday morning, and then you open up your work laptop and find out, oh no, I do have an appointment Friday morning. So just having everything in one centralized place, I think, is an excellent idea.
Yes, I agree.
So Maria, as a woman, how do you define success for yourself? And do you have any tips or habits that you use to help you be or feel successful?
Oh, that's a great question. I would have to say just, setting goals and achieving them, large or small, because that brings success, right? You desired something, you had a goal, and you achieved it. So again, I would have to say just writing things down, making that list, crossing things off that list. I feel that larger successes are an accomplishment or an accumulation of the smaller successes. It's working up to that larger success. So if you can start small, this way you're not overwhelmed, but you can gratify yourself along the way, right? We all need a pat on the back.
Yes.
So those are my tips, is really just starting small, accomplishing them. And again, all of those smaller things accumulate, I feel, into a larger success. I also feel like once you accomplish something, a goal, and you think it's a difficult goal, and you accomplish it, you're saying to yourself, wow, what else can I do? I never thought I could do this. I did it, right? So it puts you in the mainstream of just wanting to accomplish more. But again, starting small.
Excellent advice for sure. 'Cause I know, especially for myself, I tend to dive into things head first and expect huge things out of myself. And, they're not always the most practical. And if I were to break those down into smaller goals, like you suggested, I have found that they are much more attainable, and I feel less overwhelmed and more confident that I can accomplish, what it is that I'm setting out to do. So set those small goals. Excellent advice. So let's take a moment, Maria, and reflect on something that you wish you would have known sooner in life.
Ooh, geez, at my age, there's probably a few things, right? But right off the bat, I would say confidence. I wish I had given myself more confidence at an earlier age in my career. I wish that I had known that, people above me are just people. They're just like you and me. I used to get scared talking to high-level executives that were in a higher position than me, or if they made more money than me. And I felt like this harmed me because I was afraid to speak to them. And what I've realized is that these people are just like you and I. And if you put yourself on a level footing with them, it's going to make things easier for you. You're going to accomplish more because you can be yourself. You're not nervous. I remember in one of my first jobs out of college, the president of the company was the president of Comdex, Jason Chudnovsky. He called me to the office because in a meeting the day before, everyone got up and they clapped for me because I did a good job out in Singapore. So he called me to the office, shut the door, and was telling me what a great job I did. And all I had to say for myself was, thank you. I'm so afraid to talk. I'm like, oh my God, this guy makes millions of dollars a year. He's president of the company. So I just didn't have the confidence in myself, even though other people were showing me how, that they had confidence in me, that they were saying what a great worker I was. So I definitely wish that this was something that I had known sooner in my career. And, we can look at, if there's any other people out there that feel this way, a great example, I think, is the CEO and his wife, I believe. They went to Canada on the Canadian couple who got the vaccine that was meant for Indigenous people. Did you hear about that?
No, I haven't.
So he was a CEO of huge, CEO, shot to the top of his industry. I think CEO of 15 casinos across the country. His wife was a former famous actress. They went to get the COVID vaccine. They flew into an indigenous part of Canada, way up north, got the vaccine, and then, I mean, they didn't plan it too well because they were asking people for a ride to the airport. People were like, well, why are you going to the airport? So people caught on, wow, this person came in and tried to get the vaccine, right? But he didn't have a good plan. So here's someone I would have put, totally above me when I was younger. Like, oh my God, he is holier than thou. But obviously he's just like a lot of people out there not coming up with a very good plan for himself, just being an everyday person, I guess, as far as he didn't even plan a ride home. So I don't know, when you look at people, they're just like you and I. They're not, they're the same people that, if there's a family party, they're going to jump off the diving board and, do a cannonball off the diving board, right? So I would say I wish I had known to put people above me on an equal footing, that, I work just as hard as they do, and I'm just as smart as they are. I feel like this would have really helped me earlier on in my career.
Definitely some great words of wisdom right there. And I know that's something that I struggled with for a good number of years until I finally realized that just because somebody holds a higher position doesn't always mean that they're smarter than you, or that they know more. Oftentimes what it ended up turning out to be was just they knew the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they ended up in their position. Not that they were smarter or knew more or had more experience even, and oftentimes they are just as insecure in their position as you are. They just hide it better.
Right. And maybe they have an expertise that you don't have, right? In a certain thing, but maybe you have an expertise that they don't have, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe you're a gourmet chef and they can't cook, but they're a physicist, right? But they, have trouble communicating in large groups, and you don't, right? So everyone has, strengths and weaknesses. I would have to say it's all right to admire people for their achievements, right? But it doesn't mean you have to put them on a pedestal. So
great little pearls of wisdom right there. So Maria, what advice would you give to young women beginning their careers?
Wow. Well, definitely what we just spoke about. But, I'd have to say at the beginning, listen and watch, right? This will teach you what you need to do to navigate to the top. Find a shining star within your company. If it's a woman, listen to what she has to say. Watch how she interacts with coworkers, and copy that behavior and try to integrate it into your behavior.
Excellent piece of advice. Thank you. So Maria, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I have my channel company email address, which is msullivan@thechannelcompany.com, or my mobile. One thing I do is I'm still one of those people who answers the phone. I always answer the phone if I'm not, away from it on a call or, busy doing something. So a phone call or text, my mobile 603-952-1246.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Maria. It has been an absolute privilege speaking with you. Thank you again for taking the time.
Oh, the pleasure was mine. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Shanti. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. On Technology Partners wants to thank you for joining us on this episode of Women STaRs. If you'd like to appear on a future podcast episode, or if you'd like to nominate a businesswoman to be interviewed for Women STaRs, please email stars@ontechpartners.com. My name is Shanti Harkness. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on today's journey. Remember, you are all women stars. If you wish to learn more about our Women STaRs program or want to be a guest on our show, contact us at stars@ontechpartners.com. And thank you to On Technology Partners for helping me make this program a reality. Remember, We at On Technology Partners want to help you protect your team from hackers. To learn more about our cybersecurity services, go to ontechnologypartners.com.